Hi, this is Patrick Anderson with Plantin-App. In this low-code feature focus, I'm going to show you how you can modify a series of dropdowns in a form so they filter based on a categorization you have set up already. I'll use forms created by Plantin-App when adding a new entity, but the same logic applies in forms you add to pages outside of Plantin-App. To get started, I'll go into Entities, and then I just want to show you real quick that I have this department entity, and I have a type entity, and I have an item entity. These three entities are tied together by their IDs. Each entry in the type entity is tied to the department entity, and each entry in the item entity is tied to the type entity. Finally, I have an entity called item selection, and this creates the form where we will tie together the dropdowns. Let me just edit that one real quick. And in the properties of that, I'll show you that we have the department property tied to the department entity, the type property tied to the type entity, and the item property tied to the item entity, and an order name so that we can identify each entry. Now I'm going to go onto the site, and real quick I'll just show you that under departments, I have a bakery, grill, and coffee bar department, and then under types, I have several different categories for each department, and you can see here are the departments that they're tied to. And then under items, I have several items, and each item is tied to a specific type. Now let's take a look at the item selection page. If I go to the item selection page and click New, if I choose, for instance, bakery, and then I choose the type dropdown, you can see that I'm getting all the types, even the ones that aren't associated with the bakery department. And of course, if I go to item, you can see that I get an entire dropdown of all the items. So we want this to be filtered correctly for the categorization to work. I'll close that, and we'll go in and take a look at the form settings. I'll go under Customize Form. First, I'll take a look at the Department field. Really just to show you that this is the default query that is created when Plantin-App creates the form. I'm not going to make any changes because I don't need to make changes to this field. I'll collapse that back down, and now I want to take a look at the Type field. In the Type field settings, you can see that it has a query similar to the one that we just looked at for the Department field. Here what I want to do is under this Link To option here, I want to click Add, and I'll select Department ID from the dropdown. Once I've configured the field that we're going to link to, I also need to edit the query for the field so that it filters based on that ID. Because I don't necessarily know the field where the ID is stored in this table, I'm going to show you how you can find out. So I'm just going to copy this query right here, and I'll save the changes that I've made to the form so far. We'll close this, and then I'm going to go and open up the persona bar and go to the cog on the persona bar and select SQL console. I'll paste that query in here, and then I'm just going to change it so that I can get all the values from the table and run the query. And so now I'm seeing all the values from my type table. And we can see here that the department ID is stored in a column called Department. I'll close the SQL console and navigate back to the form configuration. And we'll go back into the type field and scroll down. And I'm just going to add a where clause here. So I've aliased the type table, and I've said where t.department, that's the name of the column we just saw when I ran the select all from the type table, equals, and I've put in my brackets here ready for the token that I want here. So I want this to reference the field that I'm linking to. So let me go up to my department field, which is here, and you can see that the token is department ID. Conveniently, I can come over here and just click this button here to copy the field token, and come down here and I'll just paste that in there. If I wanted to test this query here just to see how it's going to work, let me show you what you can do there. So I'm going to take this, once again copy it, we'll save these changes, and I'm going to go back to the cog on the persona bar, back to the SQL console, and I'll paste in that query here. I'm going to change my token to actual values. So I'll choose 1 and run that. And here we can confirm that my query is definitely going to work. I'll close the SQL console and go back to the form settings, back to type, and we're all set here. So I'm going to scroll down and go to the item field. And here I'm going to enter a similar where clause. Once again, I've set it up so that the item table is aliased, and I'm saying where I.type equals, and then I need to get my token for the type field. So I'm going to scroll back up here to my type field, click the copy token option, scroll back down, and then put that token in there. And then, of course, I need to make sure I link to the type field as well. So I'll click Add, and then choose Type ID from the dropdown. That's all the changes I need to make, so I'm going to click Save, and close the form configuration. And then I'm going to click New to add an item selection. We'll name it this time. For the department, I'm going to choose Bakery. And then note that now I only have cakes, cookies, and pies in the type dropdown. I'll choose Cakes. And now I only have the cake items in the item dropdown. I'll go ahead and add that. And now you can see I have the item from the bakery department, type cakes, and the item is chocolate. I'll add one more item here just to show some of the other options. So for breakfast, I'm going to choose from the grill department. I'll choose breakfast, and then I'll select eggs and click Add. That wraps up this low-code feature focus where you learned how to modify a series of dropdowns in a form created by PlantinApp so it filters based on a categorization you have set up. Don't forget, the same logic used here applies even if you added the form outside of PlantinApp configuration and you are using your own tables. I hope you have found this information helpful. If there is another feature you'd like to see in a future video, please leave a comment below. For more great low-code content, make sure you subscribe to PlantinApp by clicking the red subscribe button below. Thank you for listening.